Hey guys, the Explorer of Horror here, Horrorboy465, aka Nate Murphy. Welcome back to some more reviews, and today, I kind of wanted to catch myself from taking another, 3-week break. I actually had no plans to do this review today. It just kind of popped up in my head. I'm like, every time I shrug these videos off, it ends up being, 3 weeks before they get uploaded. So I was like, I'm not going to be lazy today. I might as well cover this movie, while I'm able to, because I kind of want to get back on a routine schedule again. I kind of want to get back on my schedule of uploading videos again, especially now that summer break. It's time for me to get back on track with you guys. But, like I said, I decided to get back on track today, and we are continuing the Phantasm franchise reviews with one of my favorites, probably my third favorite. It's a really good sequel in my opinion, really good, and it was one that I've been wanting to see for a while, and that's Phantasm III, Lord of the Dead. I love that subtitle, Lord of the Dead. I love Phantasm 2's subtitle as well, The Ball is Back. And I won't lie, Oblivion, they all have good subtitles really. Oblivion's a good one, and Ravager's a good one as well. But Lord of the Dead, really good subtitle. And apparently, doing some studying about this movie, I guess that this is one of those entries in the series that, stumped a lot of fans. It's not necessarily a bad movie considered by most of the fans, but it's considered a very controversial entry because you can tell with this movie there's definitely a much more different kind of tone with this movie. The way I can kind of explain it is that it does keep things serious. It's a little bit of Phantasm 1 and 2 mixed together. You're getting the action, you're getting the explosions, you're getting one of the classic Phantasm car chases. You're getting gore, you're getting special effects. But I do feel like in this movie they tried to go back to the darker roots. They tried to make it more of a darker movie, tried to make it more of a sinister type of movie. And I really like that when sequels try to take that gritty route, that kind of going back to its roots. Like, I love how Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3, that's a good example of that. That's actually a movie that's very underrated, and I really don't hear a lot of people talk about that movie. But one of the things I love about that movie is that it kind of goes back to what Chainsaw Massacre originally was. Tried to go back to that gritty, atmospheric, dark kind of filmmaking. And yeah, it's not as gory as it should be. It should be a lot gorier, but that's not the movie's fault. That's the MPAA's fault, as well as Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. That movie should have been way more bloodier, but really that's not the movie's fault. That's the MPAA's fault. But with this movie, like I said, it's like you're getting a little bit of the first movie in there. You're getting the second movie as well. You're getting the gore, the action, but you're also getting atmosphere. You're also getting characters. And not to say that Phantasm 2 didn't do some good characters, but I thought that Phantasm really did do. It kind of broke that mold of just having characters who are friends because they're just friends. It kind of had to tell a story. You felt that they knew Reggie for a while. And that they were all kind of their own kind of group. They were their friends, and you really bought that they were friends in the first movie. So you get that in this movie. You get the idea. You get the feeling that they were trying to do kind of what the first movie did with characters and atmosphere, and a little bit of good suspense in there. But the movie has a really good look to it. I think it has a great look to it. It has some great scenes, memorable scenes. And the reason it's one of my favorite ones is that there's a lot of inventive stuff with this sequel. And the movie was once again directed by Don Coscarelli. It's a 6.1 on IMDb. That's horribly underrated. 6.1, that's terribly underrated. I'm also a really big fan of the original poster for Phantasm 3, where it shows a tall man in a graveyard, and it kind of has that really cool red and kind of purple background. I really like that. That was really loud. Sorry about that, guys. But I really like that poster. There's a lot of things about this movie that I really like. I mean, you have A. Michael Baldwin coming back to play Mike again, which is really cool. It's really cool kind of seeing the things, because like I said before, I seen Phantasm 4 a long time ago, and it's kind of cool seeing in Phantasm 3 you're kind of seeing the events leading up to part 4. I think it made part 4 more clear for me. It made me understand it a little bit more. So it was pretty cool, you know, finally being able to see kind of the events leading up to part 4. Because like I said, this is one of those series that if you try to watch a movie halfway through, you will be lost, you will be confused, you will not understand what the heck is going on. And I'll get into more of the spoilers in a second, but, you know, it is an older type of movie, so I don't really think I need to say spoiler alert in this review, but it does lead to some things that happen in Phantasm 4. I'll just say that, so I guess it's a spoiler alert, but like I said, it's an older movie. But you do have Reggie Bannister coming back and Michael Baldwin. You also have Bill Thornberry, Jody from the original Phantasm coming back. It was awesome having him in this movie. You have Gloria Lynn Henry as Rocky, a really good character, in my opinion. You have Tim, like Kevin Connors. Tim is kind of this little kid who many have said is like the horror version of the kid from Home Alone. I mean, and I'll get to that in a minute, but Tim's a really good character. And, of course, you have Angus Scrimm coming back to play the Tall Man. Does a great job in this movie. The Tall Man actually has a lot of great scenes in this movie. Now, there's one scene that I gotta mention real quick where I thought was just really cool if they actually did that. Because really in part 1 and 2, you never really got any scenes of just the Tall Man maybe preparing the dwarfs or getting them in the canisters or making the spheres, you know. You never really had that. It was more about the characters seeing the Tall Man or them running into the Tall Man. It was never really focused on the Tall Man's point of view. In this movie, I really love how they have a focus on the Tall Man. How there's that great shot where he's in the mortuary and there's candles and spheres and he's holding a sphere and you find out that he's putting, when he shrinks these people down to doors, he takes their brains out and puts them in the spheres. So it really gives a good answer for why these spheres are flying and maybe their origins. So that's pretty cool that they explain that in this movie. But it's a really good shot, you know, him holding the sphere, the candles, the mortuary background, the great lighting. This movie has great lighting in it. I think it has a fantastic atmosphere that really is kind of brand new in the series. I think it brings a really fresh and new atmosphere to the series where it's more of a darker kind of grim atmosphere. If those of you that's seen the movie maybe know what I'm talking about, but I just think it has a great look to it. I can't explain it other than that. I think it just looks great, you know. And like I said, the shot of him in the mortuary and the candles, just the way it's lit, just a very awesome scene. And basically this movie, once again, picks up right after part 2. At the beginning of the movie where the old dead body of the Tall Man is, you know, drugged by a new Tall Man back into the portal. And I guess that means that there's more than one Tall Man. And it kind of leads to what the ending was in part 2, and I'll be honest, this movie does have a pretty rough beginning. It starts off with Reggie getting drugged out of the hearse, like the ending of part 2. The hearse crashes, he goes up to it, Mike got thrown from the car, from the hearse, and he got knocked out. And he goes to find the lead girl from part 2. Now, like I said, the lead character, the female lead character from part 2, I wasn't a huge fan of because I wasn't really a big fan of the whole psychic connection thing between her and Mike, and the actress didn't really do that great in my opinion. So, you know, I wasn't really too upset with this character getting killed off because I really didn't think she was that strong of a character. But still, when you're looking at the storyline and how important this character was meant to be to the storyline, now I've heard many different things. I've heard that Don Coscarelli, I don't think he wanted the actress, or he didn't want the character, or something like that, to where he wanted to take the character out in this movie. And Reggie just goes up, and there's a dwarf, you know, biting on her head and stuff like that, and chewing her face off. Tall Man walks up to them and freaking decapitates the girl's head, and I'm like, you know, storyline-wise, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it kind of makes Phantasm 2 kind of pointless, because the whole point was to go and kill the Tall Man and to rescue the girl character. And now that she's dead and Tall Man's alive, pretty much made Phantasm 2 kind of pointless, which is, I love Phantasm 2. It's my second favorite of the series. I love it to death. It's just kind of messed up how they did that in this movie. So like I said, the beginning is a little rough. And Reggie and Mike, they get out of there, they go to Reggie's house, and the Tall Man shows up. Has that another great scene where Mike is pretty much telling Reggie, he's like, no matter where I go, the Tall Man will always find me. And the Tall Man does find him, And even before that, I think they're in a hospital, and Mike is getting ready to get killed by this like zombie nurse, and Reggie just comes in. It's a really gory scene how they kill this kind of nurse character. Gets Mike out of there, brings him back to his house. That's when the Tall Man finds him and finally, kidnaps Mike. And I like how the story does kind of focus on Reggie, but however, I felt they could have focused on Mike a little bit more. You didn't have to have, the whole other half of the movie from Mike's point of view, but at least add some scenes in to where you're giving A. Michael Baldwin something to do, because really enough, after A. Michael Baldwin is taken, you don't really see him for 30 to 40 minutes. You don't really see him to the end of the movie, honestly. So that was also kind of a weird move, for them to do, kind of taking A. Michael Baldwin, who just came back to the series, out of the main picture. But you do get it is good in a way, because you do get Reggie Bannister as the lead. And I think that Reggie as the lead is a great idea. I just think they could have had a little bit more scenes with Mike in there. But Reggie is a great lead. I like how it's about Reggie not only getting revenge for his family at this point, but also getting revenge for, Bill Thornberry's character, and also trying to find his friend Mike and save him. It's his last hope to take down the Tall Man. And I like how in this movie they focus more on the Tall Man killing the environment. Reggie's driving through town after town after town, trying to catch up to the Tall Man, and he's running into empty graveyards and dead towns. And I like that idea, I really do. And I like how he runs into different characters as well. There's this point where he gets tricked by this hot chick who has pretty much 2 other people with her, and they're basically like these scavengers kind of characters. They knock Reggie out, they take him to this abandoned house, and that's where we meet the kid character. I believe his name was Tim. Yeah, it's Tim. Kevin Connor's Tim. And I like how this is set up, where they enter the house, and there's booby traps set up, and the kid's wearing a really creepy looking mask. Just a very kind of interesting idea. It's one of my favorite ideas from the series, is having sort of that house full of traps. I mean, you have knives hooked up to this. The kid throws a hatchet right into this girl's face. He has a frisbee with these little razor blades on it, throws it, cuts a guy's throat. He digs a hole, has a hole in the ground this guy runs into, and he shoots him. So this kid, Tim, is a pretty, tough character. And he's a very interesting character because you have good chemistry between him and Reggie. Reggie's kind of wondering, what happened to him, and the kid's parents got, murdered by the Tall Man. And the kid kind of knows about the Tall Man. And I like how Reggie meets these new people along the way. He meets Tim. He's not too sure if he wants to take care of him or not. He's not sure if he's ready for that. And he drops him at this orphanage, and Tim ends up going and sneaking back into Reggie's car and goes with Reggie pretty much to go and stop the Tall Man. And then I like how when he stops in the next town, he meets the character Rocky and her friend. And you have another classic Phantasm scene where the sphere is, flying, and Reggie tries to warn him, but it flies, hits the girl in the face, and the blood splurting. Really, really gory scene. Once again, very well done practical effect. And I like how the character Rocky has these nunchucks and tries to hit one of the spheres, but it breaks the nunchucks. So that's a pretty cool idea. Of course, Reggie shoots the sphere and saves Rocky. And I like how, like I said, Rocky and Tim, they team up with Reggie to go and stop the Tall Man. Reggie's dreaming. And I like how Reggie is trying to hit on Rocky, but she's not wanting it. And when he's having a dream that he's doing Rocky. And I like how Bill Thornberry's character walks in, and he's trying to be serious, but Reggie's obviously doing something. And Bill Thornberry's like, I want to get behind I mean, so he's like, it's just a funny dialogue scene where he's trying to figure out what to say, and Reggie ends up finally listening to him, and pretty much finds through a dream Mike, which is in this really cool looking mortuary, which has never really been done before in other Phantasm movies, where it's like pitch black and there are these different colored laser lighting. Like it's weird. And I don't think they really have any pictures on this DVD of it. They really don't. But it's like a dark mortuary with like these different lasers going through it. I know it sounds stupid, but the way they did it in the movie I thought looked really good. And basically Reggie gets Mike, gets out of there. Reggie has to stop the portal because he goes back to the real world. And he stops the portal, but right as a tall man's coming out of the portal, gets his hands cut off to turn into little monster creatures. It's a pretty cool effect. And pretty much, they find out where the tall man dies, pretty much at this giant mortuary place. They go there, they fight a couple of zombies. You have another great classic Phantasm car chase. They get to the mortuary, and you have some fun scenes where pretty much they fight out the 3 zombies once again. They try to put the tall man in this freezer. There's a really good effect where the sphere kind of breaks out of the face of the tall man, and it's a golden sphere, and it chases after him. And I love this scene where it's like really good special effects where the zombie chick just jumps out of nowhere and the golden sphere goes right through her head. Like clean right through her head. Practical effect, by the way. Just clean through her head, and she just falls down. It's like, oh my gosh, brutal scene. And they pretty much end up stopping the golden sphere by putting it in this liquid nitrogen and freezing it and pretty much causing it to die. And you think that they're pretty much going to, get away, but the tall man has put in one of the spheres in Mike's head, and Mike has these weird looking eyes, and he runs away from Reggie and Rocky and Tim, and they're wondering what's going on with them, and he pretty much runs off because this sphere has been put in his head. And Rocky also drives off. She's like, I'm out of here, I'm done being a zombie slayer. And then basically Tim walks back into the mortuary, and you see Reggie held up in the corner. This is an ending that I'm not really a big fan of, where Reggie's in the corner and these spheres on him, and Tim gets pulled through the window and he's never seen again, so you assume he dies. The tall man's alive once again, and it's like, I think that when you get to the 3rd movie and they're still doing that, it's like you want to see a climb. You want to see a conclusion to the story. You want to see it finally end. In the 3rd movie, you could actually do that, and they actually had a really good ending in mind where they would just freeze a tall man. That'd be the ending. And even if you don't want to do that and have the golden sphere come out of his head, just have them freeze the sphere, and that's it. You could find another way for him to come back and maybe a sequel. You could still have Phantasm IV, but don't have it to where pretty much Rocky drives off and she's never really seen again. Tim is pretty much dragged through the window and killed. Assumed, because he's never seen again either. And Mike pretty much would show up in the next movie, and Reggie would be in the next movie, but I don't know. It does have problems. Phantasm 3 does have problems. The beginning, the ending, the fact that Mike really isn't a lead character in the movie. He's not even really given much to do in this movie. But this movie does have a lot of strong points. It does have some really great effects. It has some really classic scenes. It has an energy that's brand new. It's a new mix of lighting and soundtrack, and there's a darker ambiance of a movie. And I really like what they did with this movie. And I think it's also just a great follow-up to Part 2, action-wise and explosion-wise. You also get gore effects, practical effects. You get great storytelling. I like how Reggie meets Tim and Rocky, these different characters on the way to get Mike out of the tall man's mortuary and kind of stop the tall man. I like that idea too. I like how Reggie's the lead character in the movie, and I don't really understand why this is really a controversial entry in the series, because to me it has a lot of great stuff to it. Is it a perfect movie? No, but I think it's still one of my favorites. I mean, to buy a third movie, usually most franchises aren't really like to where the third movies are that good. You know, when you get to, I mean, really, the only sequel out of Leprechaun I really liked was 3, so I really can't say it's that serious. But most of the time when you get to a third movie in a franchise, it's not really that good. But here, it's a very good sequel. I think it's a very good sequel to Part 2. I think it has great action, but also good suspense, good atmosphere, some good scenes with the tall man. Angus Scrimm is also really great in this movie. The cast does very well in this movie. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Phantasm III. I mean, I think it's a great sequel that's underrated. It's a little bit underrated, and you know, I really enjoy it. I don't really see where all the hate comes from this movie. But tomorrow I'll be getting to my review of Phantasm IV Oblivion, and some of you guys know my thoughts on that movie from my previous review. But I'm gonna do a review on tomorrow. Not a rant, a review, and I'll give you guys my thoughts on it then. But anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed my review for Phantasm III, Lord of the Dead. Love that subtitle. Great subtitle. Phantasm III. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. The Explorer 4 out. I'll see you guys later. Hopefully it won't be 3 weeks till I upload again. Cross my fingers.